So, finally we are here. Siam, thanks for coming. Although we know each other for quite some time, but I never asked you about your founder's journey. So, today you managed some time. Of course, I'm also very busy, but we both found our time to sit here and listen to your story and your way to become a founder. And I thought that I'll ask you, of course, I have tons of questions and you also have a lot of stories to share. So I thought we will make it a multi-episode series. Today I am going to ask you a question about like how it all started back in Bangladesh. I mean, how did you find out that you want to move to US or you want to become a founder? Just tell us your story. How did it all start?
Yeah, thank you, Tarek, for also taking your valuable time, like listening to my story and giving me this chance to share mine. Well, when I graduated in 2007 from my bachelor's degree, I studied in university called IUT. When I graduated, it wasn't very known in Bangladesh. It was an up and coming university, but right now it's more popular. But I actually honestly didn't have any idea or desire to be a founder or to move to the US. Okay. So this all happened very organically, and I just like all these things kind of unfolded, and I'm also found it myself in the journey. So when we were graduating, most of our alumni from our university, like there wasn't a big trend of going abroad. Most of them, I was graduating from electrical engineering, and most of the people were primarily getting jobs in Bangladesh in the telecom industry, in power industry. There are very few people who are going to either Europe, some countries in Europe, and some in Canada. And there wasn't a big trend of going to the US.
Oh, interesting.
And we also didn't have, I also didn't have any role models in my family. Like I am the first person who actually moved to the US from my entire family, from all cousins and all family.
Interestingly, that's the same for me as well.
Yeah, so basically I never even thought of like going to the US or going abroad in general. So we had like 30 students in our class in electrical engineering, and I was literally in the my grades were I was in 17th grade. So basically my CGPA, everything was pretty much always on average. So in my university I was totally in the average side, and it kind of started as a very silly thing. The motivation to like go abroad is that like for going to US you have to study GRE and or GMAT, like you have to go through some difficult tests. And when I was basically like just talking with my friends, I was in my 4th year, talking with my friends, senior alumni and people like that, and one of my friends or one of my classmates said that, hey Siam, like I don't think, like he said that GRE is very hard, I don't think you can pull it off, or I don't think it's pull offable, like it's difficult.
He threw a challenge at you.
Yeah, so, and I mean, you know me, but for the audience, I am most motivated when there is a challenge. If there is no challenge, I get bored. And whenever it's challenging or difficult or painful, I get all the drive.
I know that very well.
So basically, whenever I heard it, I started basically like, okay, let me just start reading the GRE vocabulary book. Just like I borrowed it from another friend and just basically started reading the book, like the vocabulary English book. And also, for a little bit more context, in my university, I didn't used to play any sports, but I was very heavily deep into games, like gaming. I wasn't studying much, I was primarily playing games all the time. I was a full game nerd, RPG, strategy, all kind of games. And I was a big fan of Greek mythology. I played Age of Mythology, many other like Greek inspired games. And basically when I started reading this vocabulary book, I found so many like interesting correlations between the Greek words and the Latin words and all the words I've heard in this game. So I started basically connecting all these words, GRE words, into all these Greek words, and started building like something called a word map, like a network of words which are connected and which has stories behind it. This is not just a GRE word. And then 4th year I graduated, and then I started working. So this was something I was doing on the side as a fun. I also gave the GRE. I got a very average score, but I was still continuing to connect these words for fun. So after graduation, I started working as an engineer in Biman Bangladesh Airlines. This is our
flag carrier.
Yeah, the national Airlines of Bangladesh, and that was basically my engineering job because I started in electrical engineering. I was doing an engineering job. I was working there as a aircraft maintenance officer, like training period, and then basically I was just doing it as my day job, and I had a lot of free time. So in all my free time, I was just basically connecting all these jobs, and I was kind of like being nerd about it, even in the job. One of my very close friends, who is actually working in a helicopter company in US right now, but anyway, he was also working with me in Biman back then. He said that, hey Siam, like there is this opening in this coaching center, which is very common in Bangladesh, like tutoring center, and you can just apply there as a GRE teacher because you like it. So like, why don't you like do something, like get some side cash. So I was like, okay, let's start it. So I started teaching basically in that coaching center, and within the first batch of the GRE classes in that coaching center, my classes became very popular because I was going to the class, and every class I was sharing all these words and all these Greek stories. And people basically, like all the students were basically coming to the classes mostly just to hear these theatrics, like the stories, the Greek story, and they're connecting. And I had so many kind of like students come up to me after the class and say, Siam, no one taught me GRE like that. So immediately I have seen that like the students were just increasing in the class just through word of mouth.
Okay, so you just found your newfound skills, how to mentor people.
Yeah, and I wasn't actually like, I didn't know that I like mentoring or anything back then. I used to do some here and there small tutoring, but nothing in that scale, on a big class kind of scale. Most of them are one-on-one, but these were like in a big class scale. And I think after the first batch being completed there, I realized that, okay, like why am I expanding this coaching center and making it popular? Because I've gone through all the other classes of other GRE mentors in that coaching center, and I was like, I can basically start my own GRE, like I can start my own GRE cohort. I just did some calculations, and I would say like that's probably my intro to entrepreneurship, which although I didn't know that I'm getting into it.
Okay, I thought it started after you moved to US, but yeah, you've already started your entrepreneurship back in Bangladesh then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know the names. The entrepreneurship term was not popular.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just did some basic math. So the basic math was that, okay, like how many students do I need to break even? And then I think initially that was like, I need for each GRE student, I was thinking that, okay, I'll charge them 10,000 taka, whole tutoring for 2 months or 3 months. And then I thought that, okay, like what would be the break even? How many students would I need to break even the first cohort? And I just did some budgeting, and I rented like in the building wherever I was staying, the garage. And it sounds very typical, like, like the typical garage story.
Yeah.
But I genuinely rented a garage, which was like the basement of the building we are staying in. And I invested literally, my budget was 10,000 taka, which is one user. So I spent some money on renting the garage a little bit for like 2 weeks, just because I'm doing test run. I bought some like chairs, like the chairs we're sitting right now, like very cheap chairs, and some tables, very super cheap, quick execution style. Like I didn't know all these MVP and all these startup terms back then. I was just like, okay, let's do something quick. So I invested that, and I'm like, okay, I told that, hey, like I'm gonna start my cohort. I think like I started in March or something. Like, okay, I started telling in that coaching center. I said, hey, the next cohort will be starting in my in my own house, like in this garage. And believe me or not, within the first cohort, like when I started, I had 15 students. When I started.
How did it feel? Like,
I was like,
I cannot imagine. Like it's such a big success in the first attempt.
So I got literally like 15 into 10,000, so 1.5 lakh Bangladeshi taka, literally on the March of that year when I started. I'm like, oh shit, this is like something which is like a gold mine.
Yeah.
Because it's like so instant.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So I'm like, okay, this is fun. Like it's fun because I love teaching, and I always said these things to my friend, is that like, how do you know that you do something, but how do you know that you love something so much, is that you'd even pay, that would pay you would pay to do the work. What do you love so much? And honestly, teaching is something which I love so much that I would pay to teach people. Because when I was like having a bad day, when I go to the class, you
get cheer up.
Yeah, my performance comes out, my motivation comes out, my teaching, sharing the wisdom comes out. When I see the eyes of a student, it's like literally like blinking, like they're like watching some movie, like the goosebumps. They're having the goosebumps and it's showing in their eyes, and the genuine gratitude after the class. So I would pay for these feelings, and I was on the reverse. I was getting paid. I'm like, this cannot be true. This is the best deal. So basically, I was doing this Biman, this airlines job. Kind of that became a side hustle. This became my main hustle.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you were making more in this than the full-time job.
I was making more. I was making more than pretty much anyone in my cohort back then, like
I can
from
imagine.
where I graduated. And on the side, I also utilized my GRE score because I wasn't sure that if I want to go abroad, because I was just enjoying GRE and words.
Yeah, and you just aced the first challenge that your friend threw at you.
Yeah, and exactly. So I basically utilized that score to get enrolled into MBA into IBA, which is the best kind of like business institute in Bangladesh. That time I was working in Biman, teaching, and then doing evening batches in MBA. So I was like, when I
Very
came home
occupied.
after the whole day, I was exhausted, but I was so happy. Like, you cannot imagine how happy I was. Like, I was like literally running all day, working all the day, but I was so happy. Feeling like when I went to sleep, it was like a peaceful sleep because I made some real.
Exhausted.
Yeah, I'm exhausted, and I made some real difference. I can see the difference. I think within 3 months I had 50 students, and I was like giving parties, like, okay, like guys, we're gonna meet in TSC, which is like a big meeting spot. Hey
Yeah.
guys, we're gonna all go, and then we're gonna give a party. And then I was like, oh, like it's so fun to, you know, like have like money. Because I just graduated, I didn't have money, and I was like, it's so fun because I can give treat to 20 people. And I'm like, this is so fun. Like, they're like, okay, who will pay? I'm like, man, don't worry, you came with me, I'm gonna give you a treat. So that feeling was really good. So I was like, okay, like I realized that, okay, this is like, I didn't realize that this is basically what is getting into entrepreneurship. But anyway, so basically I started enjoying that, and that's what I was doing. And of course, since I gave the GRE, I also started applying to universities, and then I applied to roughly around like 8 US universities, and I got selected to 4, and then 2 of them gave me funding. One was Arizona State and another one was University of Houston. So Arizona State, I got a like 50% scholarship, and then University of Houston, I got like full scholarship. So I was in a kind of like in a very tough situation of my life in 2020, like 9, in the beginning of 2029, when I heard this news that, like I heard the news of getting admissions and all this. Not actually beginning, like mid 2020, like or April or May 2029. Just imagine that I am doing this Biman job, which is already also kind of fulfilling. Airlines, it's a cool job. Airlines, planes, I love planes. Then I'm teaching, which is like
Going very well.
going very well. And I'm doing MBA in the best institute.
Exactly.
And then suddenly I got an email with this funding.
You were in such a sweet problem. Like, I mean, what to pick from all these good, option. Like, moving to US with full funding was also a great option, right, for you?
Yes, but I didn't know what is there, and I was basically very confused honestly back then, because staying in Bangladesh, my dream became very big, and the coaching center I exited from Cyphers, which is still one of the largest coaching centers in Bangladesh, and back then it
Indeed.
was very big. I thought that like Cyphers is gone. Like if I stay here 5 years, like Cyphers is like, this is like an old company, you know, like I am going to destroy Cyphers in 5 years, because I just literally did the math. First month 1.5 lakh, 3 months later I just literally put an Excel sheet and just did the trajectory. And so like Cyphers, like this is nothing, like this is it's nothing to beat, because I could see the path very clearly.
And the way you teach and the strategies and everything is like quite different from how they do it in Cyphers, right?
Yes, and I didn't have any marketing, any nothing. Every student came from word of mouth, and every student was bringing 3 or 4 more students. So, and I also tested out, now I didn't know all this entrepreneurship stuff, so I tested out all this batch pricing. No, if you bring your friend, you'll get a referral. I didn't know these like marketing techniques.
Yeah.
These are all designed organically. Anyway, so when this sweet moment, this situation came, bittersweet, like decision making time came, I basically like started talking to my friends and my alumni and all these senior people that, hey, like I got this, like I'm in this dilemma, like can you give me some advice? And actually interestingly, like I would say like 9 out of 10 people said that, hey, like Siam, I think you are doing very well in Bangladesh. Like why would you go to US? Like that was honestly, I would say like 80% of the people said that.
Okay.
You're doing well. Like why? Like you're doing well in all segments. Why would you go there?
What about your family?
Family was also kind of more preferring to me being in Bangladesh because like Bangladeshi parents, they're like, okay, like why would you go abroad? You will be too westernized, and you know how how Bangladeshi parents operate. They're like, no, Siam, you're doing good. So family was also like, they're like, okay, like Siam, you better to stay. But if you really want, you can go. They're like, yeah, they don't know. They're doctors.
Preferring you to stay here in Bangladesh.
Yeah. But it's so funny that actually one friend's one line or one conversations changed that direction. So I have this friend who is right now living in UK, very good friend. So I asked everyone said all these things. But this friend knew me very well, and I do not want to go into a different tangent, but this friend and me used to make movies when I was in university. So this is again a tangent, but a small tangent that other than playing games, I used to make movies when I was in my universities.
Okay, we'll hear about that story in another episode, but
so I made like 2 full-length movies, like different things, but he knew me very well because he's the closest person I did like creative work with. So when I said him, he said that Siam, like, I know you very well. If you stay in Bangladesh, you can see the path clearly. And he said that, Siam, whenever you see the path clearly, you get bored. If you go to US, you could completely get destroyed, or you can completely vanish with the challenge, or you could be the next big thing. Which one do you choose? I'm like, man, like, so the decision was instant for me when he said that. I'm like, oh yeah, like I know I'm going to beat Cypher's. It's very clear, visible, and obviously boring. But US, it's completely dark, completely uncharted territory. He found my weak spot, which is uncharted territory. I'm like, okay, like it's an instant decision that I'll go to the US. So that's how I decided. It was only his code, and I thanked him so many. I still thank him that, man, only because you showed me that who I am. And I also didn't know who I am back then very clearly. Now I know that I love adventure, love unknown. These are my character traits, but I didn't know these things back then clearly. So I was like, okay, let's definitely go to the US because it sounds fun. It's like going to Mars or something, because I don't know.
You've decided against all the odds. I mean, like everybody was preferring you to stay Bangladesh, but that instant, like that moment made you decide that, okay, let's go, take this challenge, jump into this unknown territory.
Yeah, and that moment also made me realize that I'm attracted to uncertainty and not certainty. Okay. I'm bored with certainty, or I get sad, or not sad, like bored, fatigued. It doesn't energize me. Anyway, so I moved to the US, started pretty smooth, like with this professor. I got full scholarship, so it was going well for the first 3 months, but obviously in my life nothing will go smooth. So after 3 months, this professor basically said me that, hey, Siam, like I'm moving to this new university, University of Texas at El Paso, which is like a little bit remote than Houston. And then he said that I'm going there as a department head, and if you want the funding or retain the funding, you have to move with me. And I thought that, okay, no, like Houston is a big city. I don't know what will I do in El Paso, which is like literally in the corner of Texas. I knew that Houston would be a better place for me in terms of doing the masters and building the network and all this. So I said that, hey, like I love working with you, and you're a good professor, but unfortunately I cannot go. And he said that, yeah, if you cannot go, I can fund you for only this semester, but after that I cannot give you anything. So that was the kind of like, I would say, like a very tough news for me.
So hold on, was it so that you moved to US, everything was going well for the first month?
First 3 months.
First 3 months, and then your funding got stopped all of a sudden?
All of a sudden it got stopped, meaning the semester starts from August to December. He told me, I think like November or October, end of October, he said that you will have 2 more months, like just to finish the semester, I'll fund you, but after that, no more.
Wow. Well, as someone who also moved from Bangladesh to another country, I can imagine what a big blow was it for someone who is just 3 months into a new country, cultural shock, and then this big uncertainty. Well, Siam, we want to hear the story about this. It's really interesting. I have tons of questions about it, but we can keep it for another episode. and I'm sure our audience also want to hear about your story, how you overcame from that and moved to this situation here. So we'll continue it in another session.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thanks.